Hey guys, it's Erin. I have a video today about my religious background and my dating background, and I believe that's it. So, I just wanted to give you kind of like a general overview of where my religious and dating background came from. So I recorded another video that I didn't really like for some reasons, so I'm redoing it right now. So this is like a current video. That's why I look different, because this is now September 16th, I think. I can't really read my watch. My eyes aren't so good anymore. Okay. I might not like this video either. No, this video is going on no matter what. Okay. So, as far as my religious background, I didn't have any religious teachings until I was going to, in 5th grade, my mom got married to her second husband, because her first husband was my dad, and they were married for 7 years, I believe. Wait, that does not make any sense. Okay, I think my mom said that, but that's not even true. Okay, so let's just scratch that. Maybe I should start this over again. I think that was a white lie or it wasn't quite, it was a big lie. I think my mom told me a big lie. And I think I just realized that right now, that I forgot she had told me that lie. So that's why I said that. So now I just outed my mom that she lied to me about that. So, should I keep recording this or not? Because this already started off very badly. Oh my God, Lord help me. Okay, so we're continuing on. Yes, that did happen. So you can't get away with anything, you guys. Especially not around me. Because I'm an earth angel. I'm a chosen one from God. So I speak the truth. And nobody can hide the truth from me. Nobody can get away with lying to me. Because I was like, in my head, I was like, wait, my sister's 4 years older than me. Oh, wait. Okay, my sister's 4 years older than me. So if they got married when she got pregnant with my sister, that would be 4 years, or maybe 5. And then I was 2 years older than, or no. So then I would be born when she was 4. And then, yeah, they divorced when I was like 1.5 years. So she could be right. So it wasn't a lie. Okay. Because I was like, wait, the math doesn't add up quite like, I don't know. It just didn't add up to me, like 7 years. I was like, okay, me and my sister are 4 years apart. And if they were married for 7 years, that doesn't make any sense, because I know that she got married because she was pregnant. So I was like, wait, what? So now it makes sense to me. So she didn't lie about that. Yay! Because my mom's not a liar. But then sometimes I question, like, what she's thinking. Like, sometimes she doesn't remember things the right way, or like, I don't even know. So we cleared that up, cleared the air, saged this place. Okay. Wow, this video is not starting the way that I wanted it to. Okay. She was single when I was 1.5 years up until she met this guy at work. Crazy relationship. Let me just go into that. Let me just go into that. So, sorry, Noni. My grandma introduced her to this guy they worked at a hospital. My mom and my grandma worked at a hospital. My mom worked in the laundry and linen department, the laundry services, basically, of the hospital. And she was like a manager there. And then she worked her way up from cleaning toilets. Let me just make that clear. She did not have a college education or anything. And she got lucky, basically, because nowadays I don't think that would happen. So, but she did it the right way. Like, she started from the bottom and she worked her way up, and she was there for like, I don't even know how long, a very long time. And anyways, I'm proud of her for that. Okay, so my grandma worked in the central services at that same hospital, and everybody knew them and stuff. And my grandma had been there, call her Noni. She worked there for a very, very long time. And what central services is that's where like the nurses or whoever would go to get the instruments, the clean instruments and supplies for their job, their duties. So my Noni would set up the trays for surgery or the doctors or whatever, and that was her job. So they would meet all kinds of people that worked there, right? So they both knew of a guy who was very friendly and smiling and very like charismatic. But his job was, he worked at like a funeral home, and he would bring the dead bodies to the hospital and pick them up from the hospital to bring them to the funeral home. So my grandma, my Noni, purest of hearts, she fell for this guy, I think because of his smile. And she thought he was cute or something. And so she said my mom should date him. So maybe she told him that she should date her daughter, and that she worked right there. It was actually right next to the morgue. The laundry place was right next to the morgue. This is kind of a demented story. I'm sorry about this, but that's weird because I just got a message about this kind of thing, and now it relates to what I'm saying. Okay. So okay, I got like a tarot reading, and it said something about a funeral home, and now I'm talking about a funeral home, and I didn't see the connection to it until just now. So I just wanted to clarify that with you guys so you knew what I was laughing about, because this is like crazy stuff that's happening all the time. Okay, so they end up dating, and then my mom was really excited, and it seemed like a fast courtship. And now understand that this guy had connections. He had connections to a boat of his own an airplane of his own and a limo of his own. So he could like fly my mom around and spoil her, going to different places whenever he wanted to, and take his boat out into the San Francisco Bay or wherever. It was like in the Bay Area. It was docked in the Bay Area, and he would like, at this time, I think that was his home, was his boat. I think he was living on his boat at the time that they met, because he hadn't been established yet. He was from, I live in California. This was in California, the Bay Area. And he came from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I think he was trying to get established here in this area. Well, I'm in Northern California right now, but in that area, in the Bay Area. This was way back in like the 80s. So at that time, we were living in Cupertino, which is like the San Jose Bay Area. And he lived in probably like closer to San Francisco, like the in between the two. So they ended up getting married. So they did it the right way, where they got married first before they started living together. And I wasn't really happy about it because I didn't really know him. Like, he wasn't really around us or like doing things with us before they got married. And so it was kind of weird and strange to me, and like I didn't like his occupation. And so it was just like kind of like, what is happening? But I just kind of went along with it and tried to be happy for my mom. My sister wasn't very happy about it. She was 4 years older than me, and she was being kind of stubborn and different about it. Like, she wasn't having such a happy attitude about it. So it kind of rubbed off on me. But what ended up happening is she would not want to go with them. Like, he would invite us to go like traveling like they did, like on his airplane or on his boat. And my sister wouldn't want to go because she didn't like him, or she didn't like the fact that what he did. I don't know why. She just didn't really like him. And because I was younger, I just went along with it all. I was just very like happy little girl, like smiling and like trying to do everything, trying to be a good girl, you know? So I was trying to get on my mom's good side like all the time. And we were in the wedding like as like flower girls and stuff. So it started off pretty good. But then we moved to this place called Menlo Park. And that was like in between like San Jose and San Francisco, basically. And he wanted to start a funeral home there. And he used my mom's savings money to start the funeral home. And my mom was fine with it because, you know, they were married. And then the school that I had to go to was across the freeway from where we lived. There was a bridge, like a walking bridge, overpass kind of thing, just for pedestrians, a pedestrian walkway over the freeway that led to a school that I was supposed to go to. But that was a different city. It was East Palo Alto. And East Palo Alto at that particular time, it was 1980, like 5 or 4, something around there. And it was considered the murder capital of the United States of America. looked it up recently because I didn't like my video that I was putting out, because I kept saying a lot. I kept saying like and I wasn't really sure about some of the things that I was saying. So I wanted to re-record it. So I looked up some of the information that I didn't know, and I asked my mom some of the information that I didn't know. And so I just wanted to clear things up about that on this video and make sure the information was accurate. So yes, the East Palo Alto was the murder capital of the United States of America in like the 80s. And it was like, I don't know, dude, I need to remember these facts, because I wasn't planning on re-recording this, so I don't remember exactly what the number was. I just remembered that it said something like 46 deaths. So I don't know if it was per year. It probably was per year or something like that. But I remember it said, you guys can look it up if you want to, if you're even curious about it. But literally, I clarified that yes, that was true, that what I was thinking was true, that I remembered it correctly, and I was told correctly as a child that yes, indeed, it was the murder capital at that point in time. 46 deaths is what I remember from what I read. And that was the highest number of deaths in the nation in any particular city at that period of time. So it was right for my mom to not, because my mom she's not super, like, I was gonna say conservative. She's conservative, but she wasn't really like strict about stuff. So I could see why she wanted to put me in private school, because she was basically forced to. It's like, do you want to put your little white daughter, your little white, blue-eyed daughter into this neighborhood? It was a racially, it was very concentrated. Like, I might have been like one of the only white people in the school, so I would have been like targeted probably. And I was from more of like I didn't grow up in the ghetto, you know. I didn't grow up like that. I was in like middle class neighborhoods growing up. So for me to go to that school, it would have been a huge like difference, and I would have probably been scared and not wanted to go to school if I went there, because yeah, that's how bad it was. So I'm sorry for anybody who went to school there, if they're watching this and they had to go to school in bad neighborhoods and all that. But it's different when you aren't used to it and those aren't your neighbors and you're not like in that community. It's very scary and intimidating to be in that situation, and you're gonna like, it's like a culture shock. And it was like the beginning of 5th grade. And so my mom, the only place that my mom could send me to school was a private school, and she needed to pay for that every month. So they paid a pretty penny. I remember them saying it was like $1,000 a month, and at that time that's like a lot of money. So they paid for me to go to a private school so that everything would be okay. So I wasn't allowed to go to any other public schools because it was you had to go in the district that you lived. You couldn't just pick any public school you wanted to go to. There's district lines. And so that was literally the only thing that they could do for me. So when they took me to this Catholic school, it's called Nativity in Menlo Atherton, in Atherton, California. It was a very affluent neighborhood. That's like where the richest of rich would live. And then there's Menlo Park that's right next to it, and that's like that was middle class at that time. And then the kids from East Palo Alto, so there was like this mixture of kids that was very unique at that school. So there were other kids that lived in East Palo Alto where their parents sent them to that private school because they didn't want them going to the public school in their neighborhood. So they were probably the richer ones in their neighborhood, or who knows, their parents could have been the drug dealers or something. Well, now that I'm thinking about it. So their parents had enough money to send them, or maybe they just had really good jobs. I don't want to make any judgments or assumptions on that. But there's reasons why I say that, because they did come to school with their eyes bloodshot, and you could tell that they were on something. Even in 5th and 6th grade was when I was there. I came into it like either the middle or late 5th grade, maybe the beginning of 5th grade. Probably not the very beginning, because I remember I was taken out. I didn't get to say goodbye to the kids at the school that I was going to, and it was like something that I didn't know that I was moving. So it all happened really fast. Like the wedding and moving happened really fast. And I couldn't even say goodbye to the kids that I had gone to school with for like a couple years. There was actually 2 schools so there was 3rd grade, I went to one school, and then the next school was right next door, and that I went to 4th and 5th, some of 5th grade. And so those were the kids, they all went to the same like schools. So I just wanted to clarify that. But so my mom takes me to this private school. We're in the office, and I'm meeting like these nuns and stuff, and I have no religious background, don't even know what Catholic school is. And I'm kind of like in shock, but I'm a kid. We just roll with the punches, right? We're used to that. And I was used to it because we moved a lot. So I was just fine. I was like trying to figure out like what's going on, and just like, whatever. So we're in the office, and then the lady's like saying, yeah, I can go to that school, and welcome to the school. And then it's like, okay, you have to wear a uniform to go here. And I knew that because when I walked in, I saw all the kids wearing uniforms. And so I thought that was kind of cool because I had never done that before. So anything new and different, I was like, okay. And then when the lady leaves the office, my mom says to me, okay, this is a Catholic school, so you have to be Catholic to go here. And we're not Catholic. And I know that you don't know like how to be Catholic, but just pretend to, and don't let them know that you don't know anything. Just pretend and just go along with everything like you know it already. And when she said that, I was like shaking in my boots. I wasn't wearing boots, but like, what? I got scared and nervous, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to like lie and fake. And that's something that I completely hated. My mom would do things that I didn't like innocent things. She thought they were innocent things, but to me, it was like, you're lying. Like you're gonna go to hell. Like now you're putting me into a church environment and you're telling me to lie. And I'm like, oh my God, like I was scared, so scared to death that if I didn't do this, even though I didn't want to do it, if I didn't do it, I could be murdered at that other school. Because she told me that I can't go there because it's like there's a bunch of murders and stuff. So I was like, oh my God. Inside, I was like freaking out. And so, but I went along with it. And I talked to my mom recently about it. And she said that because I was telling her about it and telling her about how I needed to know that information, that I don't know. So, oh my gosh, excuse me. Okay. It's a very interesting thing that I went through with that experience. It was crazy. And I'm just getting all these like visions and stuff. Whew. Okay, let me continue on. So a nun would come into the classroom pretty often, and we would sing songs, and they would pass out lyric sheets, and I would just try to memorize the song and sing the lyrics off of the sheet like I'm singing it really loud, and I'm trying to like act like I know what I'm doing there. And I never tried so hard in school in my life. I was not a good student at school because we kept moving all the time. And I was like a procrastinator, and I wouldn't really like participate very much. And I was just like this social butterfly. And I wanted to like have friends because I didn't get to like meet people and have friends with people. And I was like making the most out of the time that I had because I knew that I would probably move again. So I was kind of like fearless a lot of the time. But at the beginning, I was like nervous, kind of like, because I wanted to like fit in, and I needed to observe my environment first and gain friends. I needed to have like people like me first before I would come out of my shell. And it depended on like where I went to school and if people accepted me or not. So I learned a lot about that, like acceptance of different types of people and like new environments and stuff like that. So I talk about that in one of my videos about when the teacher picked on me in school, like, and I was scared and nervous and I would get red in my face. I didn't like to speak in front of like the group. So that was my fear of public speaking video, if you want to go watch that. So I not only sang all the songs really loud, but there was also sheets on the prayers. And so I would do the prayers really loud, and I would try to memorize those. And so I got like really good at it. I think I was only there in private school for a year and 3 months. So, or something like that, like about that. And I asked to move schools. I'm not really sure why I did that. All I can remember is that I didn't like wearing the uniform. I wanted to just be myself, and I didn't feel like I fit in there, and I didn't like lying, and I didn't like communion. That's the one thing that I wouldn't do, because I was like a strong-willed, like little rebellious kid most of the time, and I didn't like eating things, digesting things that were like different or I didn't know about. Like, I had to want to eat it, and I didn't know what this thing was, the communion, where you're supposed to do like the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and like they'd put this little biscuit or wafer on your tongue, and then you're supposed to eat it. And I thought for sure, like, oh my God, I literally risked my life. That's what I felt like. I was like, there is no way that I'm gonna eat that thing. I don't care what happens to me, I'm not eating that. That is ridiculous. I think I forgot how, I don't even know. I had faith at that point. I guess I believed in God so much that I don't even know like why I refused to eat that, and that I would risk myself going to that school, the murder school. I don't even know why or how or what I was thinking. I remember being so nervous sitting in the church pew. I must have prayed to God and said, I am not eating that. And I thought for sure that I was going to get kicked out of the school for not eating that. But I did it anyways. Oh my God. The strength, even at that age, that was like 5th grade, 5th or 6th. I don't remember when the communion thing happened. So nothing happened to me. They didn't say anything. So I was like, phew. So then I was able to sit out. So that must have been like 5th grade. And so every time that would happen, I would be able to sit out, because we would walk to the church. I think every Friday we would walk to the church and do a church mass and have to do that. So that is so crazy now that I'm thinking about it. It was like dealing with God and death at the same time, the church and the funeral home at the same time. And I took it so well. I was not emotional. I wasn't like acting out. I was doing really good. I had talked about my mom recently about this experience, and she said that I had done the best at that school than I had done any other school, and they all like praised me for my work ethic and how good I was doing. And that's because I had the fear of death in me to do good, or else I would be kicked out. So I did amazing. I remember doing amazing artwork in that class. I remember like doing something about learning about like George Washington and drawing a picture of George Washington, but I did trace it on a tracing paper or something like that first. And then it looked so good. And I did a whole report on like the French Revolution and all this stuff. And I was like so proud of myself for everything that I was doing there. And they had like sports there, and that didn't have a lot of people that were trying out. You could just be on the team. So I was on every team. And we did like carnivals, and we had our parents like do the booths and stuff, and my mom was participating in it, and it was a good experience that I had. I even did guitar lessons with a nun, but then I stopped because it was kind of too hard. And so I don't know. There was just this something inside me was like, I need to leave this school. And I still don't really know like what it was. I don't know if it was the lying, but I had already gotten over that. I was doing well and I knew this stuff and I was fitting in and I was doing good. So I don't know why I wanted to leave. I think I was just used to like leaving and going new places, and I was just ready to go. So I asked my mom if I could go to another school, that I didn't want to go there anymore. And I'm sure she didn't like paying for it every month. So she tried to figure out if there was another school I could go to that wasn't that bad one. So she ended up finding a school that was right next to that Catholic school, that it was a public school, and it was in Atherton, or Menlo Atherton, which they call it, which is between Menlo Park and Atherton. Atherton is like the wealthiest of wealthiest people live there. I'm not sure if this is true, but I'm hearing Bill Gates. And at this time, this was in the 80s, so he wasn't even like, I don't even know. Who knows? Like, but I know that I'm hearing like Apple Computer, I'm hearing Google, I'm hearing like the Silicon Valley leaders would live there. And Stanford University was right like a mile or two from that school. And then my stepdad's funeral home was like a mile away from Stanford, or closer, maybe even a half a mile. No, probably a mile or something like that. And a lot of things happened at that school. Oh, this might be the reason why. Okay, there's a whole nother story. I don't know if I want to get into all that. I guess I will, because it's all connected. So I was really traumatized by that experience. Not the school, but after school. Like, it was far away from my home because it wasn't in the district. Let's just say, I don't know how many miles away it was. It could have been like 3 to 5 miles. But for me, it was scary because of the neighborhood, the people, the diversity of the area and all that. It was like my bike had got stolen out of the garage from like one of the people that were from East Palo Alto, we believe. And there was a park right next to my house where there would be like drug dealers and stuff. So my mom was like, don't go to that park because it's not safe. And at night it's like really bad. And we lived literally like 2 houses from the park, but I wasn't allowed to go to the park ever. We never went there. And it was a huge park. So that kind of sucked. We might have gone there once in the beginning, but I don't really remember going there after that. So it was kind of sketchy, that area. And even though it wasn't like right next to my house, like I didn't feel comfortable like walking around towards my house and being alone, being in 5th grade, like 6th grade. Let's like, you know, not very smart to have your little girl walking by herself. And I had to walk around the high school, which my sister said was really bad. It was a public high school that my sister was going to. And she said there was a lot of fights and that people would have like weapons in their lockers and stuff. And there'd be like gang fights and stuff like that. And she said that it wasn't very good. And so me walking home from the private school, I had to walk away like a long ways, then go into the, or, you know, go to the outer edge of the high school and then have to go around it to get to walk down the street a long, long way and then go into another neighborhood and then go to my house. So that was scary, to walk right next to the high school where there was bad kids. So, and I would go after school and they would lock all the bathrooms, and it, like, I would have to go to the bathroom or something, and I wouldn't be able to. And it was like torture. And it would take so long for me to walk, like an hour or something, to get home. And I was so exhausted and tired from school. Okay, this is another thing. I didn't have food to eat at school. I didn't have the proper shoes or clothing a lot of the time. So if it was raining or something, my shoes and my feet would get all wet and I would get blisters, and I didn't have like a jacket for the rain or an umbrella or stuff like that. So I did not like it at all. And so I told my mom that I didn't like walking home. So she said that that I could go to my stepdad's work, which was in the opposite direction that my home was. But you had to it was a long way as well, but it wasn't as long. And I had to kind of go through a town, go through where there was go over the railroad tracks, go through neighborhoods, over the railroad tracks, by a convenience store. There was a library, and then I could go farther down and there's some, cross a really, really busy street, like a crazy busy street, by myself, and then go and walk to the funeral home. And then when I got to the funeral home, I had to go inside. And I was scared to go inside. Maybe the first time I wasn't. So I just went in, and it smelled so disgusting. It's like formaldehyde and so nasty. And then right when you walk in, there's a casket with a dead body, and the casket was open. So you could see this dead body laying there. And then his office was to the left. So I went into his office real quick, and I was like, oh my God, that's disgusting. I just saw a dead body. And he's like, you can wait over there, in this little room, waiting room, where the people wait to mourn the dead bodies and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to wait in there. I said it nicely and stuff, but I was like, no, I don't want to go in there. And so he gave me $5 or something. He gave me some money. And there was an Arby's across the street. So he was which is a fast food place. And he said, you can go eat in the Arby's and just sit there at the table and just stay there and do your homework and stuff. And then when he's off work, 6 o'clock or something, or 5 or 6, that he'll take me home. So you get out of school around, let's say 3 o'clock. So if it's 6 o'clock or even 5:30 or something, let's say 5:30, that's 2.5 hours that I'm by myself in this strange area, fending for myself, just, it's really scary as a kid when you're out on the streets by yourself and literally like nobody cared where I was or what I was doing or what. There was no cell phones, there was no contact. If I didn't go to the funeral home, I chose wherever I wanted to go. So I think I could make the choice what I wanted to do. If I wanted to walk home, go to the library, or go to the funeral home. So they never knew like where I was going. They didn't know where I was. So if I didn't make it to the funeral home, they didn't care. And my mom worked far in a different city that was more towards the Bay Area in Mountain View. And so it would take her time to get home. So she probably wouldn't get home until around 6. So it was like from 3 to 6, I was on my own. This little girl in her private school uniform, Catholic girl uniform, roaming the streets, doing whatever she wanted to do. And that to me is crazy. Crazy. And I was like scared, but I was very like adventurous. So I just like went along with it. And I think as children, like I can see what children, I can understand what children feel like in those moments. It's like you're just kind of like numb and you just kind of like go along with it. And then your fear comes kind of like later. There's fear at the time, but it's like suppressed. It's like you have to gather your inner strength. And even though you're scared, you just know that you have to do it anyways. Like, okay, so I had to do that a lot, like even before that. So I was groomed to do it from kindergarten on. From kindergarten, I had to walk home from school by myself and wait around like in the backyard and stuff for my family to get home because I was locked out a lot. They would forget to put the key for me to get into the house, and I would have to just like roam around in the backyard and like waste time doing nothing. There was nothing to do. And I was starving all the time because I didn't have food. And I struggled a lot when I was little. It makes me hungry right now thinking about it. But I had problems with hunger and I had problems with neglect. On a daily basis, like when I was going to school. When my mom was around or my grandparents were around, they fed me. So it wasn't like they did it on purpose, I felt like. But it is if you're not making sure that your kid eats or has lunch money, then that's not taking care of your child correctly. And if a teacher would ask me if I had, where was my lunch, I would like lie. Because I was used to my mom lying about stuff. Like her things that she thought weren't really like lies, but to me they were like big lies. Like for instance, okay, Okay, this gets into so much. That's why it's hard for me to talk about one thing when it leads to other things. But I might as well just like get it all out because it relates to everything. And then I won't have to like keep talking about this stuff. So, like, my mom was good at taking us different places. Like, we did things that were really cool. Like, my mom took us skiing, but she was a single parent that didn't really have money. Well, that's what I thought, is like she didn't really have money. My hand is like super numb right now. Oh my God. From holding the phone, I think. I don't like that feeling. It feels weird. Okay, so there's a bunch of cops right there. I don't know what that's about. But okay, so let me just like shorten it up. So she would take us these places, but she didn't really have money, or she felt like she didn't have money, so she would lie. So we were able to do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do. So she thought it was okay. And for that decade or something, I guess it was normal for people to lie about stuff like that. But she wouldn't lie to us, really. I don't know. But okay, let me just say, like, she would say that I was a different age, like that I was younger than I was, so I could get like a discounted ticket, like a child's ticket instead of a general admission ticket. Same with like the movies, or yeah, like the ski, what do you call it, for the ski lift ticket. And she didn't explain to me that like that a lot of people did that, and it, or I don't even know. I just felt so uncomfortable with it because she would tell me to lie about my age to the people that worked there. So they would ask me how old I was, and I would have to lie and just say the age that she told me I was. And I didn't like lying. I hated it. It was just something in me that hated lying. And so she made me lie about things, and I lost respect for her because of that. Because I knew that lying was bad. And in school, they teach you lying is bad, and they say all these things. And so it's like, okay, my mom is telling me to lie. And so, like, she's bad. Like I didn't respect her for that. And a lot of the things that was happening in my life, I was losing respect for my mom, because it was like, you're dating this guy from a funeral home, which is disgusting to me. And he's using these things, like to me, it was like my mom, when my mom was talking about him, when she first told me about him, and that what happened is she said, I have something to tell you. I'm like, what? And she's like, or no. She said, I have something to ask you. And I said, what? And she said, what do you think about me getting married to John? And I was like, started crying. And I was like, and that's not like me. Like, I'm super like, accepting of everyone and loving of everyone, right? So I cried and I was like, no, like no, I don't like him. And I think it was because of the funeral home stuff. I think that I had gone on trips with them, maybe, because I remember going on trips with them, but I didn't remember whether that was after they were married or before, right? Like right now, I don't really remember that. But I could have gone on trips with them, and so I knew about, yes, like I remember the whenever we would go on these trips with like the airplane or the boat, like he would throw ashes out. And to me, it was just like, it ruined the experience. It was like, okay, I understand what these things are for. They're not because he's special and he like has these things just to have fun and do things with. It's because he's doing, this is his work. Like he needs to throw the ashes out. Because I asked him, what is he doing? When he would just throw this stuff out the window of the airplane, I was like, what is that? What's happening? Like, what are you doing? And he told me, and it was like, oh my God. Imagine a kid, a little girl, like, I was like grossed out. But I was like, I was calm, like I was okay about it. But it was just kind of like this yucky feeling after dealing with it, like going into the funeral home, seeing the dead body, it just, and the smell, and then his hands would always smell like that, and I would like look at his hands, like my mind would be wandering, like we would be having dinner together or something, and I would smell that smell, this at home, you know, just like having dinner. And I would smell the smell, and then my mind would just be wandering, and I would be like thinking about like, ew, his hands smell because he was touching the dead bodies, and then like he didn't really think about like what we were thinking of. Like they would talk about disgusting things like that he did in the funeral home, like maybe my sister or his son and his daughter came to visit. So they would have conversations and be asking him questions, and they would be talking and stuff. And it would be conversations that would go into detail about what he did in the funeral home with the dead bodies. And to me, that was just so not something I wanted in my head. That was disgusting to me. And if you listen to one of my previous videos, I talked about seeing a dead boy on the road and being shaken up by that. And that was before that had happened. That was only like 8 when I saw that. And so this was when I was like 10 or 11. And 9, maybe 9, 10, 11, probably 10 or 11. When my mom got married, probably 10. And so she thought she was, you know, being fine by making us lie about stuff like that. And you know, to an adult, it doesn't seem very bad, but to a child, especially like at that point, I believed in God, and I knew of God. Even though we didn't go to church or pray, or I was going to church at that point at 10 years old, learning about all this stuff. So it's like, and then I was going to school without food from when I was even in kindergarten. And I have Did I do a video about that? I don't know if I did, because that's a whole nother story. Okay, so I might have to do another video about the hunger and the neglect, because that's a whole nother other thing. So I just wanted to talk about the religion and my dating history on this. And I completely go off track because my mind just like wanders to these things. And I'm like exhausted right now. This is an hour and I still haven't got to the dating part of this. So I just want to make this video about that, about the funeral home and my stepdad for right now, because I'm feeling like exhausted of talking, and that's my cue to like stop, that it's too much like right now. So let me try to figure out where I want to end with that. So what I was gonna say was that I remember being at this private school, and there was a few times that the teacher would ask me where my lunch was, and I would lie to cover up for my mom, because I didn't want my mom to get in trouble. At that point, at that stage in my life, I had already been going through this since kindergarten, and I just was over it. I think I did make a video on it. I just haven't posted it yet. Oh my God. I'm getting like throat chakra blockages right now. Okay. Yeah, so I would try to ask my mom for money, and then a lot of times she didn't have the money. And so I felt like, okay, I can't ask her because she doesn't have money. And she kind of got mad at me or something when I would ask her, or her tone of voice or something, or she wouldn't do it herself and I would forget, or every time I would ask her, I would feel bad for asking. She made me feel bad for asking because of her response. Like, my sister would ask her for money or like whatever, and then it was like she would be like, I don't have the money, and you know, and it's like, okay, so we're not supposed to eat? Like, she didn't make us a lunch or do, I didn't feel like, you know, when you're young and you don't know, like, you don't feel like you're even able to go into the kitchen and get whatever you want. And like, she didn't tell us that there was food, or I didn't know what was in all the cabinets, or to make my food, or to see, or to like, I didn't have Ziploc bags. I didn't have bags. Like, I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know. And that's like how I was just grown up. Like, nobody told me like, oh, make your own or anything like that. Or there was no food to even make. There was like nothing to even, like, this wasn't a time where there's prepackaged stuff, or like, what am I supposed to do? Carry a chicken with me? Like, I don't even know. Like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, you're making a kid fend for themselves. Like, I don't even know what was in the cabinets. And if there was, I wouldn't know how to carry it to school. Like, let's say there's boxes of cereal. Am I supposed to have shoved the whole box of cereal in my backpack? Like, this huge box. Like, what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, to me, I couldn't do anything. We didn't have like containers of Tupperware or anything. Like, and it could spoil. Like, I don't know. Like, what are you making? And I don't think she even said that. She didn't even say like make your own or do this or do that. She didn't say anything. So it was like I just didn't have food. I didn't have breakfast ever. She didn't make me anything or buy anything for me to make or show me how to do it or anything. So it was just like, okay, I'm going without food, I guess. That's crazy. So I don't know like what she was thinking or what, because I know that she's not like a evil, mean person. I just don't understand what that was all about. I'm seeing a hummingbird right now. And it's like raining here. Okay, so yeah, so it was kind of awkward for me to lie. So maybe that's why I didn't want to go there anymore. And the uniform thing. Okay, this was the other thing that I wanted to talk about. A huge thing that I remember that was going on at that time. Okay. So when I said I didn't want to walk to the funeral home, they said, okay, I'll come pick you up at school. My stepdad said he'll come pick me up at school. You know what he does? He comes in the limo to pick me up at school. And I was so embarrassed. Like, I did not like attention at all. I was not one of those kids that wanted attention or wanted to be in a limo, because I knew what it was all about. I knew that it was for the funeral home and that people had gone, it's for the family members to go to the funeral, to get a ride to the funeral and follow the hearse, follow the casket to the funeral, or pick them up and take them to the funeral home. So I did not like that at all. And I told my stepdad, don't ever do that again, because because it wasn't just the limo, okay, you guys? It was the fact that when I was walking to the limo, I think I had to go to the bathroom or something, I don't know. But I just remember coming out from the school and all the kids were around, surrounding the limo, like all gawking at the limo. And he might have been like standing out in front of it, or had his driver come and stand out by it to open the door for me. And everybody was like coming to me and saying like, are you rich? Oh my God. You know, like nobody had a limo come to pick them up at school and a chauffeur. It was like so embarrassing to me, because everybody was asking me why. They were asking me if I was rich. And I didn't like to lie. And I didn't want them to know what it was all about. So that's what it was. So I walked over to the limo. I had to get in because I had no other way of getting home. And they were already there. I was a nice kid. I didn't even think of like not getting in it. And I didn't want to walk or anything like that. It was like traumatizing at that point, probably. Or I didn't even, I think at that point, I might have not even started walking yet. That might have been after this had happened, because I was like, no. Okay, so I was walking towards the limo to get in, And all these kids were yelling and saying stuff and like freaking out about it. And I remember this one kid saying, are you rich? Or like a bunch of them were saying that. And I was like, no, I'm poor. And then somebody said, poor little rich girl. And that was like a thing from like Shirley Temple. That was a movie that Shirley Temple was in, and that was like popular in those days, like on TV, or you know, when we were growing up. So everybody was calling me poor little rich girl. So I was thinking maybe that's why I didn't want to go there anymore. But that probably was in the beginning, when I first started going there, which makes more sense because I was trying to figure out a way to get home. And there's all these ways of getting home that weren't working out. So I told him, do not pick me up in a limo. So the next day, guess what happened? He picked me up in a hearse, which was like, oh my God, like this is why I didn't want the limo to come. And so it was like the most embarrassing, humiliating thing. Like, I was like traumatized by that. So then all the kids were gathered around the hearse this time. And they were yelling and saying, is there a dead body in there? And I think they had come out to let me in the car, like the driver again. And he was like answering the kids' questions and stuff. And I was just like humiliated. He was like all smiling about it, like it was like a cool thing. And I didn't think it was cool at all. And I literally had to get in that hearse and sit down in it and drive away. And then we went to the funeral home and I was like sitting there waiting to go home. So it wasn't even like I was dropped off at home when they would pick me up with the limo or the hearse. So I was just like, no. So that only happened one time for each one of those. And I was like, no. Oh my God. This just related to the other story that I was talking about. The two other stories that I was talking about. And so that's why I don't like attention. That's the reason why I don't like that attention, was because in the other video, I talked about this lunchbox that my mom made me bring to school. And she used that against me because I wouldn't use it. Because everybody thought it was a pet carrier. And that's why she didn't give me food to eat, lunch to eat, or pay for food to eat. Because she said I was too picky. There was all these excuses and reasons why I couldn't eat. And it happened throughout my whole entire childhood that I wasn't allowed to have lunch or eat the majority of the time. I went without food. No breakfast, no lunch, and it wasn't until like dinner time that we ate. And I would be like starving. So, and at that time, that period of time, a lot of kids were neglected. So I just want to put that out there, that this was a space and time where there was a lot of latchkey kids, which I was, where we would be home alone even after work, or, you know, like, oh no, after school until our parents came home. And so we were fending for ourselves. A lot of kids were walking home by themselves and like all that. But there was a lot of like kidnappings and things like that happening as well. There was a lot of problems with seatbelt laws. There wasn't even seatbelt laws then. And there was smoking. My mom smoked like all the time. And I had problems with that. And I can go into those problems like more in depth in another video. But it was a crazy experience growing up. Like all of these things that these adults would be doing that was just like so without empathy, without thinking about what the child was thinking, or the influence that it was having on the child's psyche, their development. And so, yeah, so this is a video about my religious background, going to a Catholic school, and my stepdad being a funeral director, and the impact that had on me was a negative one. The school wasn't so much the negative. The school was a positive. But the surrounding of it was like this crazy, wild experience. And I did a lot of like after school sports so that I could be like picked up from school like late. Like I didn't have to like wander the streets. So I really liked those after school sports, but sometimes they wouldn't start for like an hour or so like later after school. So I would just have to like hang out, and there wasn't like food and stuff. So I would be like so hungry, like so much of the time. And sometimes I would like mooch off of kids, but I didn't like doing that, and they didn't like it. So it would make me like not want to ask people for food or anything like that. So it was just crazy. All right, well, that's the end of this video. I'm so glad I'm not a kid and have to deal with that stuff anymore. And I can really sympathize with kids and these types of situations that are just craziness. Like how adults can like put kids through all this crazy stuff and not understand what it's doing to them and how it's affecting them in their life. So, good night, guys. Peace.